This was the second time little Hope had been betrayed, tossed aside, and unwanted. It was her own mother the first time it happened. What could a newborn baby do that was so wrong? Why was a healthy baby girl in an orphanage? Miss Ruth was the nanny of the orphanage, and even she could not justify what Hope's mother had done. Although Hope never experienced true parental love, she continued to hope that everything would get better in her life. Like everyone else in the orphanage, she dreamed that someday she would be loved and adopted into a nice family. She imagined herself as someone's daughter, at first subconsciously, and then her imagination became increasingly vivid. Throughout the years, other children were adopted from the orphanage, but no one wanted to make Hope part of their family. With each visit of potential parents, her dream of being adopted faded. After all, babies are more likely to be adopted, and she is already 10 years old. One day, there was a family who wanted to adopt Hope. She could not contain her joy. She thought, finally, she will be loved. However, it turned out that life outside the orphanage was not at all what Hope imagined it would be. She felt like an outsider in the world of her foster mother and her husband. Hope was treated like a piece of furniture, deprived of human care and love. The girl tried her best to be good, obedient, the way she needed to be. But her foster parents never responded how she wanted. Hope was ready to continue living with them, just to be part of the family, but her foster parents decided against keeping her. A year later, they decided they no longer needed Hope, and now the 11-year-old orphan was cast aside once again. Hope returned to the orphanage, unwanted and unloved. She began to wonder, will she be able to recover the deep betrayal she has experienced in life? Will she believe in the goodness of people again? Will she experience love? Hope looked out the window as her foster mother left, and big tears streamed down her face. Wiping them with her small palm, she did not understand why she had been abandoned twice already in her short life. Her own mother, who was supposed to love her, had betrayed her the first time. This time, when it seemed to Hope that life was improving, she thought she was going to have a real family. Hope's now former foster mother disappeared around the corner without even looking back, even once. Hope watched her leave, and with a sinking heart, she hoped that her foster mother would change her mind. "Don't worry, it's a part of life," said a familiar voice behind her. It was Mike, Hope's best friend. Mike was 3 years older than Hope, and, just like her, got into an orphanage in very early childhood, but there was a significant difference in his story, as Hope herself believed. His parents died, so he ended up in the orphanage. Clinging to Mike, Hope gave in to her emotions and cried as hard as she could. Mike ran his fingers through her hair in silence, letting her grieve. "You will cause a flood if you don't calm down, and then we will definitely get in trouble with Miss Ruth," Mike joked, gently wiping tears from her face. "Hope, don't be offended, but I'm sort of glad that it happened, because now we will be together like we were before," he said as he winked at her. Hope missed Mike while she was away, but she did not want to be reunited under these circumstances. This was her last chance to find a family, albeit a foster one. All children in the orphanage clearly understood that preference is given as a rule to young children under 5 years old. Teenagers are the least wanted. Hope was already 11 years old. She was already incredibly lucky to have been fostered a year ago, but her foster mother could not accept her, even though she tried her best to be loved. "Mike, you go. I need to be alone right now," she said quietly to her friend. He nodded understandingly and left. Hope lay down on the bed. There were no more tears. Now she felt only emptiness and indifference to everything. Reflecting on her life, Hope did not understand why some children got everything: loving, caring parents, brothers and sisters, grandparents, holidays with big family gatherings, and other children got nothing except to live under the government's roof with strangers all around. Hope wondered how someone could give up their child and not think about them again. She didn't know the answer, but she hoped that her mother had a good reason for abandoning her and that they would meet again someday. One thing she knew for sure was that she would never give up her child. She would never want her child to experience what she had. When dinner service was called, Hope stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling. There was a soft knock on the door, and a moment later, Miss Ruth appeared in the doorway. When she saw Hope, she sat down on the edge of the bed and comforted her. "Baby, don't tear your soul out. It's not about you. You know there are people who come here like it's a toy store. First they take one, and then they throw it away when they get tired of it. I know that it's very painful and hurtful for you right now, but life goes on. We need to forgive and move on. There will be many more unpleasant moments in life, and you must be prepared for them," Miss Ruth said, voice trembling as she spoke. Miss Ruth barely held back her tears now. In general, she was an incredibly kind woman who treated all children with all her heart. She didn't have her own, so she gave them all the warmth, feeling sympathy for absolutely everyone. The children were also drawn to her and loved the eternally smiling woman very much. Hope looked at Miss Ruth and suddenly asked, "Miss Ruth, do you know the reason why my mom gave up on me?" "Does it matter, my dear?" Miss Ruth replied warily. "I just want to know. Maybe there is a reason. Maybe something happened that she made her want to give me up. You've been working here all your life. Do you remember how I got here?" Hope looked so optimistic that a shiver ran down Miss Ruth's spine. "Hope, honey, I'm sorry. I don't know the details," she said. She couldn't look Hope in the eyes as she remembered how she personally took baby Hope from her mother's arms, trying to dissuade her. But she did not want to listen to anything. Hope's mother could only say that the baby had ruined her life, but Miss Ruth would never tell Hope the truth. Hope noticed tears rolling from Miss Ruth's eyes. "Miss Ruth, are you crying? Don't, please," Hope said and hugged the woman. "How can I not cry? Because my soul aches for each of you," Miss Ruth replied. "But there are so many of us, and you have one soul. Let's both calm down and not cry anymore," Hope suggested. When Hope came downstairs for dinner, she spotted Mike coming toward her, and he whisked her around the room. Life in the orphanage continued for Hope. It was time to say goodbye to Mike, the best friend she ever had. Mike had turned 18, which meant that it was time for him to live an independent life. As expected, he received housing from the state and joined the army. He regularly wrote letters to his true love, Hope. Childhood friendship had gradually developed into a youthful infatuation, so everyone considered them a couple. After serving his contracted time, Mike had not forgotten about Hope. On the contrary, he regularly visited her. Hope anticipated his visits with a joyous heart because she had never been as close to someone as she was to Mike. Shortly before Hope graduated, the headmaster of the orphanage wanted to speak with her. Hope thought that it was about her finding a potential home, but she was mistaken. An unknown man was waiting for her in the office. "Hope, this man came on behalf of your grandmother," the manager, Mrs. Douglas, began carefully. "The woman does not have long left. She is in the hospital and would very much like to see you." Hope had a grandmother? But how was this possible? Hope was confused. "If you agree to go to the hospital with me, you will find out for yourself," the man said. Hope nodded. Miss Ruth accompanied the pair, apprehensive about leaving Hope with an unknown man. Entering the ward, Hope saw an incredibly old woman who had medical tubes and devices connected all over her body. "You wanted to see me?" Hope asked quietly, carefully examining the woman. "Are you Hope Mortense?" the woman asked. "Yes," Hope replied, but she was so confused. "Call my lawyer," the woman ordered. Once her lawyer arrived, she continued the conversation. "I'm your paternal grandmother. Unfortunately, my husband and son left too soon. Now it's my turn. You're the only one left in our family, so after I leave, I bequeath you everything I have. A big house, and a decent bank account. All this will be issued in your name, the woman said as she motioned to her lawyer to present the official signed documents. She turned away from Hope to look out the window. Is that all? Hope wondered aloud. Trust me, it's not that small. Or did you want something else? The old woman said, grinning. You haven't seen me once in your life, and don't even want to ask how I lived, Hope said. I would like to know at least something from my life, Hope said indignantly. Okay, I'll tell you, but after that you'll leave right away. I'm already very tired, the woman said with irritation in her voice. When your mother found out she was expecting a baby, my son was only 22 years old. He wanted to get married, but I forbade him, threatening to deprive him of everything if he did. Your mother dreamed of marrying a rich guy, so when he left her, she decided to abandon you. She only needed you to get a goal. My son moved abroad and got married, but there were no children in that marriage. 5 years ago, he died in an accident with his wife. My husband died almost immediately after, suffering a heart attack. I found you, although it wasn't difficult at all. That's the whole story. Now go away. I sincerely feel sorry for you, Hope said through tears. You don't know what it means to love, because even now you are only worried about your money. After a long pause, Hope said goodbye and left the room. After Hope's graduation, Hope and Mike decided to live together in the same house that Hope had inherited. They decided to donate the money to the orphanage where they both grew up. As time passed, Hope and Mike got married and were looking forward to welcoming their first baby. Hope made lunch and escorted her husband back to work so she could get some fresh air. Suddenly, Hope ran into a strange woman at the gate. Can you tell me if Hope Mortense lives in this house? She asked Hope. She does. It's me. That's my maiden name. What did you want? Hope asked curiously. Looking into the woman's eyes, Hope had to suddenly catch her breath. She knew who was standing in front of her. My daughter! I finally found you! The woman screamed and rushed to hug Hope. Hope could not believe her eyes, but she invited her mother into the house. After pouring the tea into the cups, Hope sat down opposite her mother and asked, looking into her eyes, Why did you abandon me? Her mother replied, You see, daughter, your father left me when he found out that I was expecting a child. His mother insisted on it, and I didn't have anything to feed you. But let's not talk about the bad. We're together now. You know you have a younger brother, and he really wants to see you. Do you mind? Hope's mother asked. Yes, of course, I'll meet him, Hope replied absently. Hope had two thoughts on her mind at that moment. On the one hand, she was glad that her mother had found her, but on the other hand, it all seemed very strange. Hope's mother soon left, promising to come to visit next weekend, but with her brother. In the evening, Hope's husband returned from work, and she told him about the unexpected visit. You dreamed of finding your mom, and now you're not happy about it at all? Mike asked gently. Yes, I have replayed our meeting with her thousands of times in my head, but everything did not happen at all as I thought. She didn't even ask for forgiveness for leaving me, and didn't ask at all how I had been living all this time. The conversations were only about her and my brother, Hope replied sadly. Don't worry, let them come by this weekend. Let's try to find out what she needs and why she actually found you, Mike said. All week, the young woman suffered in anticipation of the unknown. She decided to invite Miss Ruth to dinner because Hope and Mike had continued to maintain a relationship with her over the years. When the weekend came, the doorbell rang, and Hope saw her mother and a young man who resembled Hope. Meet Nick, your brother. The woman introduced the young man. Nick gave the impression of a modest and shy guy and immediately liked Hope. Glancing at Miss Ruth, who was present at the table, her mother tensed and made a displeased look, which did not go unnoticed. And what is this woman doing here? Hope's mother asked, pointing to Miss Ruth. This woman was like a mother to us, sat with us when we were sick, calmed us down when we were sick, shared the joys with us, Mike quipped. Excuse me, how can I address you? He asked. Megan, Hope's mother hissed. Here, daughter, your brother will soon be studying near you, so you can see each other often. However, it's so expensive to rent an apartment, I'm afraid I won't be able to help. Maybe you'll take him in? We're not strangers after all, trying to hold on direct eye contact, Megan said, looking at her daughter. Excuse me, Megan. I was wondering how you got your daughter's address, Miss Ruth asked. So the newspaper wrote that this house went to an unknown granddaughter of the former owners, Megan said, and stopped. And what is the age difference between Hope and Nick? Mike continued his questions. 2 years. Why? Megan's face turned crimson. Hope watched in silence. Because of the fact that 2 years after you abandoned Hope, you gave birth again. So you had housing and funds, but you didn't even think to return for your daughter. And I don't have to imagine that you were looking for her. You found out she had received a good inheritance and decided to get something out of it. That's clear. Stop playing games, Mike told her. And who are you to tell me off? Megan screamed. It's her brother. She has to help him. And anyway, if she hadn't been born to me, her life wouldn't have turned out differently, she persisted. Nick took his mother's arm and tried to lead her to the door, but she did not stop pouring insults at Hope. Tears rolled from Hope's eyes, so Miss Ruth hurried her into the bedroom and told her to sit on the bed. Why is she doing this to me? She doesn't need me at all, she whispered. Calm down, baby. It will be okay, Miss Ruth reassured her. When Mike finally managed to get the guests out of the house, Miss Ruth was already calling an ambulance. The stress of it all had caused Hope to go into labor. At the hospital, Hope gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Hope looked into her daughter's face, realized that she would never be able to part with her. Hope cut Megan out of her life. Although she tried to establish contact several times, but Hope maintained a friendly relationship with her brother. Hope and Mike invited Miss Ruth to live with them and help with the baby, which Miss Ruth agreed to and was incredibly happy about. In the end, Hope and Mike became the best parents for their little girl.